Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Tin Man's Corner channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and today I'm reacting to another Midnight Terrors video for you guys because in my short of the videos that I was going to be reacting to, well, I put 5 videos and I was supposed to put a 6th one. My mistake. So I figured since we're still in March, I go ahead and pick this horror story video that he just uploaded 9 days ago, which is 5 Disturbing True March horror stories. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the lights off, move the camera up here for you guys, and let's get this reaction on the road and in the bag. Okay, here we go.
So this happened when I was 19 years old,
Okay.
on my way back to Texas from California, after spending spring break with my sister in San Francisco. I was excited to get home. Yeah, school was waiting for me, but I missed my friends, my bed, and my cat, not necessarily in that order. The only downside? I was traveling alone, which I've never liked. Not just because it gets boring, but because people always assume I'm way younger than I actually am.
You know, if I ever flew an airplane, I'm not going by myself. I don't know if I can handle that. It'd be kind of weird. But also, if I did travel, I would probably not pick flight. I would pick either a bus or a train. That's it.
Like, we're talking 13 or 14 years old at most. It's frustrating, especially when flight attendants mistake me for an unaccompanied minor or ask me to move from the emergency exit row because I don't look old enough. Anyway, my boyfriend was supposed to pick me up from the airport when I landed, and I was excited to see him. I even wore the pink members-only jacket he had bought for me, trying to look at least somewhat decent after hours of traveling. My first flight was fine, but when I landed in Dallas for my layover, things started going downhill fast. A massive storm rolled in, causing torrential rain, lightning, and flight cancellations left and right. Unfortunately, my flight to Houston got canceled, and I had to wait in a long line to rebook a new one. While waiting, this older guy, probably in his 40s or 50s, lined up behind me. He looked friendly enough, and since everyone in the airport was grumbling about the weather, he casually asked, "Are you alone?" Now, normally, that question would put me on edge, but the airport was packed with other stranded travelers, so I didn't think much of it. I just told him the truth and went back to waiting. When I got to the counter, I was told there were only 2 seats left on a new flight. If I hurried, I could make it. I bolted for the train to the new terminal, eager to catch this flight and finally get home. But then, that flight got canceled too. And guess who also happened to be at that gate? The same guy. At first, it didn't seem weird. He was in the same situation as me, right? So I went and exchanged my ticket again. And again. And again. This happened at least 3 or 4 times, and each time he followed me to the new gate. Still, I brushed it off. After all, we were both just trying to get home, right?
I would be thinking that too, but it'd be kind of weird if he just kept following you and not nobody else.
But then, things got weird. After one of the cancellations, he walked over and struck up another conversation. A random traveler nearby suggested I rent a car since flights were unreliable. I explained that I wasn't old enough. That's when the guy gave me a big smile and said, "Well, I'm old enough to rent a car. How about this? I'll rent one, you can sleep, and I'll drive." And that was the moment my gut started screaming at me. I forced a laugh and told him, "No thanks, I'm going pretty far." His smile twitched, like he hadn't expected me to say no. Then he quickly pivoted, saying, "All right, well, at least let me buy you some food." Now, at this point, I was starving, and for a split second I almost said yes. But then I remembered a book I had read about a girl who was drugged and kidnapped at an airport after accepting a drink from a stranger. That was enough to snap me back to reality. I politely declined. But he didn't let it go. He started listing restaurants, pointing at different places in the airport. How about this one? You like Mexican food? What about burgers? His persistence was unsettling.
Yeah, no, he was trying to get you to go with him in his rental car when you take a nap. Yeah, but he was going to kidnap you. And the same thing with the food, right? Try to drug you, find a airport security guard quick and let him know what's going on.
I kept saying no, trying to be polite, but I could tell he was getting frustrated. Finally, after I ignored him completely, his expression changed. His fake friendly act dropped, and he glared at me before storming off. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. I called my sister to vent about the weird interaction, but as time passed, I started to feel more uneasy. The whole situation had left me feeling exposed, and I didn't like the thought of him being somewhere in the airport still watching me. I found a quiet gate to wait at, trying to relax. Then, about 30 minutes later, I looked up, and there he was, walking straight toward me. My stomach dropped. I immediately tucked my legs up in my chair and pretended to be busy on my phone. But he wasn't deterred. Hey there, still here? He said, as if we were old friends. I didn't answer. I just kept talking to my sister on the phone. But he didn't care. I don't even think he registered that I was already in the middle of a conversation. Then he dropped his creepiest offer yet. You should come stay with me at my aunt's house tonight. That's where I'm staying. She won't mind. You don't want to be here all night, do you? I froze. Wait, his aunt. Earlier, he had said he was staying with his grandparents. I looked up at him, and his expression completely changed. His friendly facade melted away, and his fake smile stretched into something almost amused, like he knew I had caught his lie but didn't care. I felt sick. I just shook my head, muttered, "No, I'm fine," and turned away. But he didn't leave right away. He just stood there staring at me for a few seconds. Then, without another word, he walked away, backward, keeping eye contact with me the whole time. At this point, I was beyond creeped out. I called my boyfriend and told him everything. He immediately told me to find a security guard. I looked around, but strangely, the airport felt completely deserted.
See, like I said, go find a security guard. And even if you don't see one wandering around, go ask people at the front desk and be like, where's the security desk at? Or I need to talk to a security officer. And they'll get you one.
I couldn't find a single one. I had no choice but to move again, hoping he wouldn't find me. A while later, a random guy my age noticed me lying on the floor near an outlet, charging my phone. He jokingly asked, "Why are you laying on the floor?" And already on edge, I snapped back, "Because I want to." He laughed, threw up his hands in a "whoa, chill" gesture, and I instantly felt bad for being rude. I ended up explaining why I was so on edge. Then, not 10 minutes later, I saw the creepy guy again. He was scanning the area, clearly looking for someone. The second our eyes met, I knew he was looking for me. But this time, I wasn't alone. He saw me with the other guy and didn't approach. He just stared for a moment, then walked off. Maybe he was just some overly persistent creep who didn't know how to take no for an answer. Or maybe he had worse intentions. Either way, I was just thankful I listened to my gut.
You're darn right. You better be thankful. But man, you would think that there would be some security just walking around the airport like that, especially when it's busy. But I'm glad she did the right thing and hid. Told the guy that was sitting there about what was going on. Because I know he probably would have protected her if that guy came any closer. All right, let's get to the next one.
So earlier this year, I was working as a security officer at a homeless shelter. It wasn't just a regular shelter. It was a government-run mental health outreach center on the upper floor, with a daytime shelter downstairs. My job was to keep the entire building secure, even though technically I was contracted through the government office upstairs.
Right.
Let me tell you, after working there for 5 months, I've got a ton of creepy and downright terrifying stories. But this one still makes my skin crawl. This happened in March during a pretty normal shift. I was stationed in the lobby, which was set up like a doctor's office, waiting area, reception desk, some chairs, and a couch. That afternoon, a guy came in to pick up his medication, which wasn't unusual. After getting his prescription, he sat down on the couch, rummaged through his backpack, and pulled out a plastic bag full of white pills. Now, at this point, I was watching him, but not too concerned, until he pulled out a pocket knife. He didn't open the blade, but he smashed 3 or 4 of the pills into powder, used his fingers to make 3 neat little lines, and then just snorted the whole thing right off the table. Whatever didn't make it into his nose, he casually swept onto the floor. At this point, my brain was screaming, "Yeah, that's not normal." This was clearly not how he was supposed to take his meds, and the whole thing reeked of something illegal.
Yeah, first of all, I'll be like, you can't do that here, buddy. This is a public place. You don't get medication that you're supposed to snort up your nose unless it was like for a nose problem. You know, like one of those bottles that you like squeeze like this and it shoots up stuff in your nose. I mean, that's the only thing I could think of that you could get from a doctor's office for nose problems. But no, he's getting plain and simple drugs, like cocaine, maybe. Let's continue.
So, I walked over to him and, as calmly as possible, told him he needed to leave. That's when things got bad. He barely even looked at me and just muttered, "I gotta take my meds." I repeated myself, told him he needed to go, and that's when he said, without even looking at me, in the most casual voice, "You know, I got a suppressed 9mm in my bag that'll make you and that BH at the desk shut up." And just like that, my entire body locked up. I was 19 years old, unarmed, and standing in front of a guy who had just threatened to kill me and the receptionist. For all I knew, he really had that gun. This was officially a potential active shooter situation. I immediately started backing away and whispered to the receptionist, "Get the other client up, call 911, and lock yourself in an exam room."
I would have done the same thing. Oh, yeah, you need to get the cops over there because if he really does have a gun, you make a man one more time and he's snorting drugs up his nose, he's going to go old gung-ho in that place.
"Do not open the door for anyone except the cops." She moved fast, grabbed the other client, called 911, and warned the rest of the staff. Within seconds, they had locked and barricaded their doors. Meanwhile, I was still out there, trying to keep this guy talking while watching his every move. Everything was being recorded on security cameras, so at least if things went south, there'd be footage. I told him again that police were on their way and that he needed to leave. At first, he just sat there, staring me down. Then, slowly, he stood up, walked right up to me, and said in a low, quiet voice, "I'm coming back for you one day." Then he stormed out. 5 minutes later, the cops arrived. They reviewed the footage, put out an APB on the guy, and took samples of the white powder he had left on the table. I was still shaking, running the whole thing over in my head, trying to figure out if I had just dodged death or if this guy was just talking big. A few days later, the police found him. No gun, no drugs. Turns out, the white powder was just crushed up antipsychotic meds that he was supposed to take, but for some reason, he decided to snort instead of swallow. He claimed he had lost the prescription bottle they came in. So, yeah, technically nothing bad happened, but when you're a 19-year-old unarmed security guard and some guy threatens to shoot you in the face, it sticks with you. For anyone wondering, I still work for the same company, but now I do third shift at a completely different location. No more homeless shelters for me.
Ooh, thank God the police were able to get him because if he threatened him that he was going to come back and get him, I know I would have been scared to even work in that location, but I'm glad that It did not deter him from working security ever again, though. But yeah, that is just crazy. And if he's supposed to take them anti-psychosomatic pills in the mouth and not through the nose, yeah, that guy was just completely crazy. He'd rather snort the stuff. But if he's having that problem, he don't need to go to a homeless shelter. He needs to go to a mental asylum.
Back in March 2014, I was just another guy swiping through Tinder, looking to meet new people. After about a week of chatting with this one girl, she suggested we grab coffee. Everything seemed cool, but on the day we were supposed to meet, she suddenly started texting me like crazy. Turns out, she had something to confess. The pictures weren't actually her. And also, she wasn't a she at all. He claimed he still really liked talking to me, and begged me to meet him anyway. Yeah, that was a hard no. I blocked his profile and figured that was the end of it. I was wrong. About a week later, I matched with another girl. She seemed fun, and we hit it off. At some point in our conversation, she casually asked if I talked to a lot of people on Tinder. Like an idiot, I told her about the whole catfish situation. She laughed it off and asked if I wanted to meet up, and since I had learned my lesson, I agreed only if we met in public. The next day, I was sitting at a cafe, waiting for her to show up. But after 15 minutes of nothing, I glanced out the window and froze. Across the street, there was a man staring at me. At first, I brushed it off, but after a few seconds, I looked again. He was still there, standing completely still, just watching.
First of all, if I used a dating app and somebody came up pretending to be a girl and they turned out to be a guy, I'd be like, nope, sorry. But yeah, if you're supposed to be meeting this other girl there, why is that guy looking at you through the window? Makes you wonder, is that other person he was just talking about probably found him?
At that point, my gut told me to get out of there. I got on my bike, because I always biked everywhere back then, and booked it home. I told myself no one followed me and that it was just a coincidence. But things were about to get so much worse. About 3 weeks later, the phone calls started. At first, it was just heavy breathing from an unknown number. Then came the texts. First harmless, then creepy, then outright disturbing. At first, they were just desperate messages begging to meet up. But soon they turned sexual, then violent, then personal. Whoever was sending them knew things about me. My friends' names, my family's locations. They started threatening to involve them if I didn't respond. I tried tracing the number, but my phone provider said it was probably a burner phone. Great. For 2 weeks, I ignored it, thinking it would stop. Instead, it got worse. I was getting 50 to 100 texts a day. I'd wake up every morning to a flood of messages. Finally, I changed my number. That worked for a while. Then it started again. Somehow, they had my new number. I called my provider, who assured me that no one could access it without valid ID. But then, the situation escalated. My Facebook was hacked. Within a day, my friends were messaging me, asking why I was sending them horrible things. One of my closest friends got a message about her dead mother. That was my breaking point. I deactivated my Facebook and called the FBI. They documented everything but told me, since I wasn't in immediate danger, there wasn't much they could do. At that point, I felt completely stuck. I considered hiring a private investigator or even a hacker, but in the end, I decided to just wait it out. I stopped answering unknown calls. I ignored any texts, and slowly it started to fade. Except for one night. I came home, and something felt wrong.
Yes, save your messages and call either the cops or FBI, because that is really taking it too far with all the text messages, and then when you change your phone number, they figured it out and start spamming you with more messages. And then the fact that they hacked your Facebook account, oh lordy, maybe you should do the whole hire hacker thing and see if they can figure out who's doing all of it, and then hack them, and tell them not to be messing with you no more.
The door was unlocked. The windows were open. A strong breeze was running through the apartment. Nothing was stolen. Nothing seemed out of place. But I could feel it. Someone had been inside. I checked every room, locked everything up, and just waited for my roommates to come home. It's been almost 7 months now. The calls and texts have mostly stopped, though every now and then I'll get one. It affected me more than I care to admit. I became hyper-aware of my surroundings. Work became difficult because my mind was always somewhere else. I stopped using dating apps entirely. At this point, I just want to put it behind me. I'm moving at the end of the year, and I'm ready for a fresh start. I'm not saying dating apps are all bad, but I've learned my lesson. Be careful. Ask more questions, FaceTime before meeting, and always trust your gut. I ignored a lot of warning signs, and I regret it. Just be safe out there.
That was scary. It'd be like you made somebody mad, and then they start hacking everything that belongs to you, and you didn't even give them your phone number. But like I said, glad he called the FBI, but I wish they were able to do something instead of just saying, oh, if he had to threaten you, then we can't do nothing. I mean, use your IT tech guys to trace where the number is going to on the phone and see if they can find them.
Back when I was 21 and in college, bar hopping was just something we did for fun. It was a way to let loose, de-stress, and enjoy the chaos of a night out. One freezing March evening, my friends and I took an Uber downtown and kicked off the night at this old, dimly lit basement bar inside a historic hotel. It had that cozy but eerie vibe. Stone walls, low ceilings, loud conversations blending into the music. The place was packed, and I was waiting at the bar for my drink while my friends grabbed a table. That's when two men sat down, one on either side of me. The first guy was bearded and oddly familiar, like someone I might have passed on the streets before. The second guy was blonde, thin, and jittery, his sharp eyes scanning the bar like he was always on alert. The bearded one struck up a conversation, asking my name, and we made some casual small talk. Turns out, he had even gone to my high school, just a decade earlier. He seemed friendly enough at first, but when I told him I was only 21, his expression changed. His brow furrowed like he was suddenly uncomfortable with my age. The blonde guy, though? He was aggressive. He leaned in too close, his arm wrapped around me, his breath heavy with alcohol. I could smell it, thick and bitter as he spoke. His voice had an accent, Russian maybe. I laughed awkwardly, trying to brush him off, but he wasn't getting the hint. When I turned toward my friends for help, I realized they were completely unaware of what was happening. I forced myself to grab my drink, casually pulled away, and went to sit at the table with my friends. As I glanced back at the bar, I saw both men staring directly at me. A chill ran through me, but I shrugged it off. I figured it was just drunk guys being drunk guys. That was my first mistake. About 30 minutes later, as we left the bar to head to another, something felt horribly wrong. My vision blurred. My ears burned hot. My eyes welled up with tears for no reason.
Oh, don't tell me what I think they just did. That guy got mad you didn't talk with him or hang out with him. He probably poisoned your drink with something and make you have a reaction. Oh, Lordy, I'll be rushing to the emergency room right about now.
Then, suddenly, this wave of dizziness and nausea slammed into me. Before I knew it, I was sprinting to the nearest bathroom, vomiting violently into a toilet. It wasn't normal alcohol sickness. This was different. I felt angry, confused, and scared. Then, nothing. My memory cuts out. I wasn't unconscious, but I remember almost nothing after that point. Apparently, my friends saw how sick I was and decided to call it a night. They wrapped me in a coat, got me into an Uber, and took me back to their apartment, where I slept for 14 hours straight. When I woke up the next day, it felt like I had just vanished from reality for an entire night. I don't remember falling asleep. It was just an empty void. Thinking back, I'm almost certain I was drugged. Those men saw me alone at the bar and took advantage of the situation. I've been drunk before, blackout drunk even, but nothing has ever felt like that night. It was a different kind of sick, and to this day, I have never seen those men again. I don't remember the bearded guy's name, and I'll probably never know exactly what their intentions were. But I do know one thing. I got lucky.
Oh, yeah, I think I know what their intentions were. Roofing your drink just so they could probably kidnap you. But I'm glad her friends got her out of there instead of them guys did.
Back in junior year of high school, my parents got a job offer out of state, which meant I had to move across the country and start at a new school in March. Making friends was hard, mostly because I was too shy to actually talk to anyone. I just wanted to feel connected to people again. Around this time, everyone was switching from MySpace to Facebook, so I followed along to stay in touch with my old friends. A few days after making my account, I got a friend request from David. David was a guy from my old town, though we weren't exactly close. He was more like the friend of a friend, Jerry's friend to be exact. He'd show up whenever Jerry brought him around, but he never really talked to anyone, so we all just thought of him as Jerry's friend. That's why it was so weird when he suddenly wanted to add me on Facebook. But I was lonely and desperate for friends, so I accepted the request without thinking much of it. At first, nothing seemed weird. His profile was pretty empty, but it was still early days for Facebook, so I didn't find that strange. Over time, though, his friend list grew fast, even faster than mine. But again, I just figured he was being more social online than in real life. David and I started talking every day. He told me he had just started college but was struggling to make friends. I related because I was having a hard time fitting in at my new school. We bonded over that, and eventually, he became my best friend. He helped me sign up for the SATs, walked me through scholarship applications, and even paid one of my application fees using a Visa gift card. When I started college, he continued to help me out, giving me advice on where to buy books and how to manage my classes. After all that, when he asked for my phone number, I didn't even hesitate to give it to him. We kept in touch for years, and over time, he started opening up more about his personal life. He told me he worked at Pizza Hut, which he hated, played soccer with some friends on the weekends, and had flunked out of college but didn't want to tell anyone except me. At one point, he even moved back in with his mom, which he said made him miserable. A few years later, my family decided to visit my old town, and I was excited to see my high school friends again. Everyone was on board for a big get-together, except David. When I asked why he didn't want to meet up, he finally confessed that his pictures were heavily edited, and he was afraid I'd be disappointed if I met him in real life. I told him I didn't care what he looked like, but he still refused. Then, out of nowhere, he just started being a huge jerk to me. He knew all my insecurities and secrets and started using them against me. It hurt, so I just stopped talking to him. Fast forward to the reunion, and guess who shows up anyway? David. And he looked exactly like his pictures. I was confused and pissed. If he hadn't photoshopped his pictures and he wasn't scared of meeting me, why did he lie? Why did he suddenly stop talking to me just to show up here? He didn't even acknowledge me, acting like I was invisible, just like he had back in high school. I was angry, but I also wanted answers. We were all drinking and catching up, and when it was David's turn to share, he repeated everything I already knew. The same job, the same struggles, the same life. Finally, the alcohol gave me the courage to confront him. I asked why he ignored me after all these years, and his answer? I barely remember you. I was shocked. I told him about Facebook, our messages, everything, but he just kept saying, I don't even use Facebook. Apparently, he had a MySpace back in the day, but when he moved to Tumblr, he never bothered making a Facebook account. I thought he was messing with me, but then Jerry backed him up. Then it hit me. If he wasn't the one I had been talking to for years, then who was? The mood shifted. Other people in the group had talked to David online too. When we called him out, he told us to text the David we had been talking to. He placed his phone on the table. I texted the number. No new messages popped up on his phone. Then, my phone buzzed. The fake David texted me back. The room went silent. We grabbed a laptop and searched for David's Facebook profile. When he saw it, he was visibly shaken. The person had been using his mom's maiden name as a last name, so his real friends wouldn't find him. His profile picture was of a dog he used to own, a dog that had died, just like the fake David told me. Most of the older pictures were taken from his old MySpace, but the newer ones, they were stolen from his Tumblr. Then we noticed something even creepier. There were photos David swore he never posted anywhere. They were pictures of him playing soccer, taken from the audience. Whoever this person was, they had been watching him in real life. They knew where he worked, what movies he saw, even his favorite ice cream flavor. They had been stalking him for years. We tried texting the fake David for answers, but he never responded. Instead, he deleted the profile, vanishing without a trace. We never found out who they were or why they did it.
I was just thinking after I heard the Midnight Terrors guy's voice say that that guy showed up at the reunion anyway, but it turned out it wasn't even him talking to her all the time. It was somebody else, and that guy had to be stalking him. But why him out of a bunch of other people? You know what I mean? But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications for more Midnight Terrors videos like this. This has been another successful installment of the Tin Man Score channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor. I say that's a wrap, and have a nice day, y'all.